Fittipaldi bringing that entire battle that involves Danny Sullivan and to some degree Teo Fabi forward.
Yes, exactly. And of course, it warms up the championship situation as we ride with Sullivan. We know that this pressure is forcing Fittipaldi closer and closer to his championship rival, Mansell. And Mansell seems to be slowing.
Out of the race already. We mentioned that he was involved in that situation at the start. Willie T. Ribbs. As they pull his car back to the transporter, it's out of the race and will load early. Back riding with Danny Sullivan right in the midst of that fight. Look at him spread out once again. Leyendijk, of course, though he is not a factor, really has no reason to let up, as he wants to get through this field as best he can.
One of the reasons, Paul, that the cars, when you see them going down the straightaways, get so many different lines where they're not going to be passed, is because here it's very hard to see. It's a flat racetrack because, again, it's on an airport. So they can get offline from the other cars. They can see a lot further ahead and see what's really going on in the track.
Well, you can get offline, but getting off the track can be very dangerous. The leader, Paul Tracy, has had some problems just like that. Look, just a couple laps ago. But again, very gently gets the car back on, a time when, as you mentioned, Bobby, you do have to be incredibly gentle.
Well, just look how gentle he was right there. If he would have stayed on the gas, that car would have spun probably 2 times in a complete circle. But as soon as he saw he was going on, he just came out of the gas. The turbocharger cuts off. He probably doesn't have over 100, maybe 125 horsepower. He just motors back on the track and then nails it again. So the kid is acting a whole lot smarter.
Now the leaders sort their way through traffic, though for the most part traffic getting out of the way, staying over so they both can come through. Jack Arute, you have an update on the third place Fittipaldi?
That's right, Paul. Sam Posey, you alluded to the fact that Paul Tracy is not in the points hunt while his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi is. What we are witnessing right now is a little bit of strategy. Fittipaldi is determined, along with his crew, that he would like to lay back and watch this battle up front between his teammate and Nigel Mansell, feeling that if they duke it out near the end of the race, they may be used up, almost punch drunk the way a fighter would be, and then he can strike. Fittipaldi is thinking about points. Tracy is thinking about winning.
Jack,
Fittipaldi saved the driver, saved the car.
Right. Well, Jack, that's a great point because the way Mansell is driving, he is really using himself up. I mean, he is going as hard now. He was calm in the early going, but with Tracy ahead of him, he's really pushing that car again.
And Sam, don't forget, every driver here knows that he had the problem with his wrist. So they're looking at Nigel Mansell, hoping that they can use that wrist up as well.
Well, Jack, I just want to think that, or I want to mention, I don't know that his wrist is as bad as it might seem. Maybe he's a little bit actor on that. Mansell is in extremely good shape, but so is this young lad right here in the number 12 car, Paul Tracy. Both of these guys are good shape. They'll be very tired at the end of the race because it's very hot today, a lot of humidity. They'll wear each other out.
Quick spin off and on for Brian Bonner, and looks like he may have killed the engine. He was not a factor in the battle. The factor is here at the front of the field as Mansell continues to chase down Paul Tracy. Mansell, the early leader of the run. Now Tracy beginning to pull away just a bit, and you can see that this battle, as they've run through traffic, has separated considerably from the third place car and that battle that is being led by Emerson Fittipaldi between Fittipaldi, Johansson, Danny Sullivan, Teo Fabi. Fire at the back of Bonner's car. He's calling for a little help there, though he's safely out of the car. Still, with the cost of even something as simple as a cowling on one of these cars, you don't want any problems at all.
Those cowlings are probably $20,000, $25,000. Also, he doesn't want to stand there and let it burn up. He wants somebody to put it out.
So at the front, static for the moment, clear traffic ahead for Paul Tracy, a man who has been watched so very carefully by the fans and certainly by his owner, Roger Penske, this year, scoring his first victory at Long Beach and his second pole of his career for this race. But someone who has to be very careful. He can't afford many more mistakes.
Watch these cars, both of these cars, Paul Tracy right there, then Mansell right there. And notice how much smoother Tracy's car is going through there. Mansell's, watch how much each one of them bounce. That'll give you an idea how they're handling.
So Paul Tracy leads this field. 85 laps, the scheduled distance. 20 are now complete as they get Brian Bonner's car off the course. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Over the years,
Cleveland looking down on Paul Tracy from overhead. The Goodyear Blimp Spirit from Akron, Ohio, one of America's most enduring images. The Goodyear Blimp looking down on the Cleveland Grand Prix, presented by Goodyear. Paul Tracy leads it. Nigel Mansell is about 3 seconds behind. Then Emerson Fittipaldi, Stefan Johansson, Danny Sullivan in 5th. In 6th is Teo Fabi. Then Mario Andretti. Brian Till is 8th. Robbie Gordon is 9th. And Raul Boesel is 10th. Because this is an airport, normally the IndyCar system has a very sophisticated computer system that helps score the cars, and they have transmitters on board the cars that send a signal to lines embedded in the pavement as we join a ride with 15th place Scott Goodyear. Well, that doesn't work here because they won't let you cut into an airport runway to install that system. So it's back to the old computer-assisted manual system here. We ride with Scott Goodyear. Scott Brayton is just ahead of him. We'll just sit and watch this battle for a bit. Looking again down from overhead. Now back. There is Brayton sitting just ahead of Scott Goodyear. And we'll just ride with him here.
To Scott Goodyear's engine there, and I think everybody can hear it. You can hear as he goes through the bumps how he keeps just an even throttle. He doesn't back all the way out, and he doesn't get in it really hard. In fact, he doesn't even have the turbocharger running right then. And you can watch if we stay with him a little bit longer there, that as he goes through the bumps, it's really smooth because he can just barely stay in that power.
On board Danny Sullivan. He runs in 5th place. Clear field ahead with Danny for the moment. You got a glimpse of Paul Tracy. He, of course, still runs in the front of this field. At the moment, unchallenged by Mansell. Mansell begins to nibble away just a little bit, and then they run into traffic, and it'll fall back on Mansell. So he's having trouble handling up some of the slower cars on this circuit.
Sullivan qualified 6th, by far his best qualification of the year. He's much invigorated by his victory in Detroit.
Back to the front of the field. Here is Paul Tracy. Chevy-powered Penske chassis. Interesting contrast always in power between the Chevrolet engine and the Ford engine. Once again, running 1st and 2nd. Ford power, the Ford Cosworth engine in Nigel Mansell's car. But you see, when Paul looks in his mirrors now, he doesn't have red number 5 filling them up.
Mansell has dropped back almost 4 seconds, 3.8 seconds as they cross the line on the last lap. So Tracy is pulling away.
Well, just watch as he goes through the turns. The car just quivers sometimes. Now, I think the Penske is probably working the best it has in the last 3 or 4 years. So just watch it in the turns.
The 2 black cars, Brian Till, and there is Robbie Gordon. They are running right now in a battle for 8th place. Till got away from Robbie just for a second there, and already Robbie is closing back in.
Till, you see him here in the center of the screen, told me a wonderful thing this morning. I said, what's it like over the bumps? He said it's like being in one of those paint mixers. Look at him bounce around in there.
Robbie Gordon, just look how much smoother he was through there than Brian Till. Now, in qualifications and practice, Gordon had a problem. His wastegate, which controls the turbocharger, was stuck open, so he didn't have any throttle response. That was the reason why his qualification was so bad.
I think it's a confirmed fact that Robbie Gordon is one of the stars of the future. Much less has been heard about Brian Till, who I think may be too. A guy like Ray Hall who can carry a briefcase and know what's going on inside of it, really present himself well in a board meeting, but then he sort of puts all that away when he attacks a racetrack. Terrific driver and another local Ohio man.
So these 2 cars battle. The front of the field remains the same. No changes in position. Paul Tracy leading Nigel Mansell, then Fittipaldi, Stefan Johansson, then Sullivan, then Teo Fabi, then Mario Andretti, and then this battle between Brian Till and Robbie Gordon.
It's awfully early in the race. We're still, remember, it's hot today. All the drivers realize, Paul, that they're going to get tired. At the end of the day, they're going to sweat every lap. The sun is beating right down on them, besides the temperature being hot. So it's going to be a long day for all of them.
Here's our running order after the conclusion of 25 laps as we run down through the field and keep an eye on this fight. Gordon closes in just a bit. He now has other traffic ahead of him to aid him in his fight with Brian Till.
I just can't help but notice how much smoother Robbie Gordon looks in this particular race than he normally does. He normally looks like a rookie that's really chasing stars. Right now, he's very, very smooth. In fact, going through the bumps and all, he's one of the smoothest cars, and he's come from a long ways back where he's up in the top 10 already.
Well, but Robbie Gordon has had some spectacular moments in this season. And if you want to think about the bumps, Bobby, his background is all off-road racing. Maybe he doesn't even know they're there.
He probably doesn't, Paul.
Fight continues. Nothing changes at the top of the order. We'll watch it here.
The shocks and the springs, just imagine how important they must be at a track like this, where the bumps are just so bad, where the cars just jump up and down. Shocks and springs are like tuning the violin. That's where it all happens here.
Shock absorbers, in fact, have become so much more important in IndyCar racing the last couple of years, where they used to have maybe a gearbox specialist and an engine guy and a chassis guy. Now you've got all the different experts, including a shock absorber engineer.
Well, they certainly do. Most of them, a tire locked up going in there. Most of them have dynamometers for the shock absorbers, Paul, and all the shock absorbers and all of these cars are no longer hydraulic. They're gas on top of hydraulic, so they never aerate inside. Or in other words, whenever they finish the race, they're the same as when they started.
The leader of the race, Paul Tracy, is on the pit road. This is lap number 30. You would guess this might be a little early, but Jack Arute, I think they're being conservative.
They are, Paul. Originally, their plan was to pit on lap 31, so they haven't played it too close to the vest. They've just decided not to chance it. A nominal stop. They're just going to take on fuel, and that, as you always see, is what takes the most time here because they've completed the rest of the work. Has a little bit of trouble getting it back into gear, but in 14 seconds, he's off and away.
A well-disciplined stop, though. As you can see, the Penske team also began to lay out for Emerson Fittipaldi.
And again, if it looked like he wasn't hurrying when he was coming into the pits, it's because CART today has a speed limit.
Wow.
And they tell you that you can't go at a certain speed, and he's hit a penalty quite a bit this year, so Paul Tracy's not going to screw up. Come in slow, suffer your penalty and going slow, but go like heck when you hit the racetrack.
Maybe the camera made that look a little closer than it was, but it looks like he was awful close to Lyn St. James as he came out and rejoined the fight. Here comes Nigel Mansell as he's on the pit road, and you can see here just a little curve, and then it's a straight shot into their pits, totally avoiding the chicane. Now, Mansell and the Newman Haas pits all the way down at the far end, and Gary Gerould waits for him.
We wait with the crew, Paul. We're told that they'll make changes in both the front and back of the car. They want more downforce. They'll go for a larger wicker bill on the rear wing. They're making that change, and they